All right, welcome back to the Press Box Podcast. Today is episode number 88, if you're counting at home. And today's episode is always a fun one for us. It's our NFL preview episode. So this will be the 2021 NFL preview. Lots to be excited about this year. Fans will be back in the stadium, adding a new game. So there'll be 17 games per team this year. And that's only just over 2 weeks away now. So we're really excited about that. Here at the Press Box Podcast. So today we're going to talk about the AFC first and the NFC, go through all the divisions, break down who we think is going to win the division, who's going to make the playoffs. We'll talk about AFC Championship, NFC Championship, and then ultimately pick a Super Bowl winner here on today's episode. But before we get into that, as always, let's talk about our Twitter account at PressBoxPod. Make sure to follow us on there if you haven't. I know our Twitter's been more lively as of late, trying to get more interaction, ask questions, poll questions, things like that. Make sure to follow us on there and subscribe and rate on iTunes as well. We always like to hear from our listeners. If you've listened to the 2 Olympian interviews, tell us what you thought about that. If you like these preview type shows, tell us what you think about that as well. Just any rate and review you can give us on iTunes is great. I always look forward to seeing that. So without further ado, now let's talk about the 2021 NFL season on the Press Box Podcast.
Okay, welcome back to the Press Box Podcast. I'm your host, Ralph Miranda. I'll be joined by my co-host, Joseph Miranda, and our producer, Nathan Miranda, shortly. This is episode 88 of the Press Box Podcast, and today is the day that we've all been waiting for almost a full year. It's the NFL preview on the Press Box Podcast, as the NFL will be kicking off in 3 weeks. 3 weeks from, we're recording this on a Saturday. 3 weeks from tomorrow will be opening day in the NFL for season of the 2021 season. A very interesting season this year for a lot of reasons. An additional game this year. We have 17 regular season games, which means there'll be 18 NFL weeks this year. There were only 3 preseason games as opposed to the 4 that they've been playing for many years, except for last year when there were no preseason games due to COVID. And of course, this year, COVID, we hope, will not be as big of a problem as it was last year, as the NFL has stated that it's going to be up to the individual teams to handle their protocols. And if for some reason they can't play a game, that game will be forfeited. So interesting year. I'm joined now by Joseph and Nathan. And guys, I guess I know you guys are as excited as I am that the NFL is about to kick off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's more exciting this season than last season for a lot of reasons, mainly being the extra game. So we get an extra week of NFL Sunday, which we all enjoy. And then, stadiums will be at full capacity this year again. So we'll get the full NFL feel. Fans will be there. You got a little preseason action to kind of whet your appetite. So it's a regular season again. And, and you got, season kicking off like it does so many times. Tom Brady is the defending Super Bowl champion again, right?
Yeah, that's right. It seems like every year that's the case, right, Nathan?
Yeah, no, I'm very excited as well. Like Joseph said, I was excited last year too. I mean, there weren't any fans, but that didn't really make a huge difference to the viewer on TV watching.
Right,
But this year, I think it will feel more like Joseph said, back to your typical NFL season. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which would be neat. But yeah, I'm looking. There's a lot of storylines, obviously, and I want to see if obviously Brady can repeat as the Super Bowl champion. That'd be pretty cool. I think he's probably, I guess, they're the favorite, probably, right? I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think it's going to be another exciting season. Hopefully, one of the most exciting seasons. And as we begin to break down the season right now, let's start with let's start with the AFC since the defending champions come from the NFC. The AFC has had the Kansas City Chiefs have been the conference champions for the last 2 seasons. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl after the 2019 season, Super Bowl 54, I guess it was, as they beat the San Francisco 49ers. And then Super Bowl 55, They did not win, losing to the Buccaneers. So let's start with the AFC East. The AFC East is an interesting division. Obviously, we've got the Jets, the Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills. Just an interesting, those probably would be the three teams that I guess everybody kind of thinks about a lot. The Patriots obviously are in that division as well. So let's talk about that one. What are your initial thoughts on that one, Joseph?
Yeah, I think for the first time in a long time, it's not the Patriots' division to lose. So
right.
They proved last year that they don't really have it anymore, right? I mean, the Bills look, you could say, dominant at times, especially in that late season game against the Patriots on Monday night, where they kind of blew them out.
Right.
So I think this year heading in, it's the Bills division. I think they ultimately win the division again. I just think the Patriots. We saw last year that Belichick. It was probably more Brady than Belichick, right? So we didn't know that going in. So we were, obviously giving the nod to Belichick, like, oh, he'll have something for the division as usual. But they don't really have a good quarterback. Like Cam Newton, last I checked, didn't throw the ball more than like 15 yards with spiral.
Right.
The way it looked last year. So, and they got the rookie from Alabama, right?
Right.
Mac Jones, I think. So,
right.
Either if they start either one of those guys, I don't see them being that much better than last year. And Josh Allen's only going to be have another year under his belt of experience. They made the playoffs last year, so I think it's the Bills division. I think the Patriots. I think they kind of compete with the Dolphins for second place. Maybe they go 8-8, 7-9, something like that. And then I think the Jets bring up the rear in that division.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. I think the Bills are probably going to win the division. I think the Patriots are done. Like, their dynasty's over, obviously. I mean, they might be back again someday, but they'll have to rebuild at that point. And I don't think it's going to be with Belichick. I think it's going to be a whole new coach, whole new system, maybe 5 years down the road, so then they may be back. But I think they're pretty much done. So I think in the Jets, who knows? I don't think they're going to be that great. But the Dolphins, I think, though, maybe that's still interesting. I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins won the division. I like the Bills, and everything you said's right. I mean, they made the playoffs last year. I like Josh Allen a lot, all right? And he's just going to have some of his mistakes he's made in the playoffs, I feel like, are just inexperienced a lot of times, right? Maybe. So he's getting more experience, and those should correct themselves. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins, for some reason, I don't totally trust the Bills as a team, not Josh Allen, but
well, I tend to agree with you more, and I've said this, but he's still mistake prone, and some of that stuff is just the way he is. Like, he's liable to just –
you got a little Brett Favre in him.
Right.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or just kind of a dumb pass out of nowhere in a crucial situation. Yeah, so I see that, but I don't really see Tua with the Dolphins. Like, I don't see him doing much. I don't know.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, the one thing that, if you're talking about those two teams for the division, the one thing that makes me lean to the Bills the most probably is a defense wins championships. I agree with that, but you don't need, I guess, but I think you have to look at the quarterback at some point, right? Of two teams. And with the teams have won with the quarterback, subpar quarterback before, with a good defense, but most of the time you're going to need at least an above average quarterback if you're going to win your division, win the Super Bowl. And I don't know about Tua, so that's a negative against the Dolphins. I just wouldn't be shocked if they somehow did slip up and win the division. I don't think I don't know. I guess it depends how the playoffs shake out, but I guess if the Dolphins won the division somehow, I don't see them doing as much in the playoffs as the Bills could if they won the division.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Dolphins are a force to be reckoned with. Last year they were pretty much in that race until the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. I agree with both of you. Tua is not necessarily a guy that you look at and say, hey, he's going to make that big step this year and take them to the playoffs. But they've got a good, solid running back in Myles Gaskin. They've got Devontae Parker at wide receiver. He was hurt a little bit last year. They've got a really solid young defense. I think they're an up-and-coming team. Are they playoff bound this year? Maybe a wild card, I don't know. But I think they're going to be a real challenger in that division. I think they're building that team the right way. But I agree with you. I think the Bills are obviously the favorite. Josh Allen just signed a new contract. I think now he's like the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, which is neither here nor there. But obviously he's, they've made steady improvements. Playoffs one year. This year they won a playoff game, got to the conference championship, or last year. This year, if they continue on that path, They should get to the conference championship and maybe win it. I don't know. It depends on who they play. But I think the Patriots are still they're still going to be a decent team. I agree with Nathan. Their dynasty is over. They're just another NFL team now that might make the playoffs a couple of years and then may not make it. Obviously, Cam Newton, Belichick is still saying he's the starter, but I think if they go in the season with him the starter and he plays more than 1 or 2 weeks, they're in trouble.
If he starts all, is it 17 now? Or they're still
17 games.
If he starts all 17 games,
they're in trouble.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're in trouble. And I think Belichick is just waiting for Mac Jones to get to the point where, he's a serviceable quarterback.
Not only are they in trouble, I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to let him start 17.
I agree with you. So I would agree with both you guys. I think that division belongs to the Buffalo Bills this year. Let's move on to the South division. The South division is an interesting division. You've got you've got the Jaguars in that division. You've got the Titans in that division. You've got the Colts in that division. And of course, you have the Texans in that division. I think the Texans are basically a train wreck right now. Their quarterback is probably going to be somewhere else. He's got a lawsuit against him, Deshaun Watson. I don't know that he's going to be there to play much this year. So who knows who they're going to have at quarterback. They've traded away lots of guys. Some have left in free agency. So I don't think they're much of a threat.
The thing with the Texans too, last year, the one thing that was keeping them in games was Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
So if they have another quarterback that they're scrambling to try to find here, it's really not going to go well, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Colts are an interesting team. The Colts were a pretty good team last year. They did make the playoffs. If I remember correctly, they had Phillip Rivers as their quarterback. He retired.
Right.
They traded for Carson Wentz. He was hurt, but now he's back at practice. Looks like he's going to start the season as their quarterback. They have a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. They have some good wide receivers. They have a solid defense. I think it was one of the higher rated defenses last year. So I think they're going to be a real challenge in that division. Obviously, the Jaguars are not going to do much with a rookie quarterback and a new coach. They may win 3 or 4 games.
Speaking of the Jaguars, you see that Etienne guy got hurt? He's out for like 12 weeks.
That's right. Travis Etienne, the guy they drafted from Clemson, is hurt. In fact, he may be out for the season, they said.
Maybe that's what
because he's got a Liz Frank injury in his foot. He's got to have surgery.
Liz Frank.
Yeah, it's a weird – I don't know why they named it that. I think they named it after the guy who founded it. But it's a bone problem in his leg. Broke a bone in his foot.
Yeah,
his foot, yeah. And as I was telling Joseph before we came on the air, you probably didn't hear this. They just traded Gardner Minshew to the Eagles for a conditional 6th-round pick. So they're going with a rookie quarterback. And anytime you do that, he may be a great quarterback in the future. But even Peyton Manning was 3-13 his first year as a starter. So they're done. They're not in the conversation. So let's talk Colts Titans. I mean, those are the 2 teams that I think are going to be fighting it out for the division. Joseph?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with that recap of the division. So it does come down to the Colts and Titans, I think. And the Colts have more question marks than the Titans, starting with Wentz. I mean, we don't really know what Wentz you're going to get at this point, right? Is the one that looked really good early in Philadelphia, or the one that basically got him benched for Jalen Hurts and traded?
Right.
I thought and still think that Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback. I'd like to see him come back and give him another try there. So I actually think that they take a step back in the quarterback position, even though Rivers is older. I think he's just a little better than Wentz right now, unless Wentz can prove me wrong. But you take that into consideration. You got T.Y. Hilton, who's a year older, didn't do much last year. He's not the same guy he was in Luck. Like you said, Jonathan Taylor came on strong. That's probably the bright spot in the offense anyway. But the Titans are just the same team that were last year, plus they added Julio Jones, right? So I give the edge to the Titans there. It'll be interesting to see if Derrick Henry can keep up his dominant form. 2 years ago, 1,500 yards. Last year, 2,000. Probably not going to give him 2,000 again, I would think. But you never know. You never know. So
well, he's got an extra game. He's got an extra game this year.
That's a great point. I didn't even think of that. Tannehill proved himself to be like a serviceable starter, like they can have success. So I like the Titans in that division. I think that Julio Jones has a pretty good year for them to add to the offense a little bit. And I think that the Titans in the South.
I think this is like the Bills-Dolphins thing. I think the Titans, it's pretty much their division, I think, unless they slip up and lose.
Right.
But I wouldn't be shocked if the Colts won the division. The Colts and the Dolphins both, they're kind of like a little bit of a wild card to me. Like, they're kind of they could go either way. Kind of. They could outperform what you think, or they could just kind of be, underperform what they're expected to do. But I think it's most likely that the Colts, just like the Dolphins, are going to be vying for a wild card spot. I don't think they're going to win the division, the Colts. But the only thing about Wentz, I agree they're taking a step back if you just look at Rivers and Wentz. But Wentz now is back with that offensive coordinator, right?
Correct.
Or is he the head coach of the Colts now?
He's the head coach of the
but
Colts.
He was offensive coordinator with the Eagles.
Yes, he was. Yes.
And that was the year that he was doing that. He really was
they
playing
won the
well.
Super Bowl.
They won the Super Bowl.
Right.
So there has to be something there. Of course, Wentz is, he's had a couple injuries since then, everything, but I think that's kind of what makes me think, I wouldn't be shocked if they really were kind of clicking on all cylinders on offense and really, and like you said, the defense is already solid.
That's the key right there. The Colts have the better defense than the Titans, but we'll see. I mean, I think the Titans, right now, like Joseph said, you have to say the Titans are the favorite, but don't be so. I think the Colts are closer to the Titans than the Dolphins are to the Bills, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think the Colts, I don't want to say it's a lock, but I mean, I'd have to think they get one of the wild cards.
I would tend to agree with that. Yeah. All right, let's go North Division. Joseph, I'll let you start this one out. North Division. We've got the Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers,
Ravens.
And Ravens. That's right. I'm sorry. I drew a blank. All right, Joseph, you start us out there.
Yeah. So, okay. The first thought about the Steelers. I didn't like the way they obviously finished the season last year. Just, they started, 12-0, something like that.
11-0, yeah.
11-0. And then they really faltered down the stretch and got beat pretty bad by the Browns in that playoff game.
Right.
Roethlisberger's back. He's obviously had a great career. He's a great quarterback, but I don't know how much he has left at this point. I tend to think the Steelers aren't going to win this division. I think it comes down to the Ravens, and as much as it bothers me to say it, the Browns. I mean, I think you can count the Bengals out. They're similar to Jacksonville.
Right.
Not quite the same.
Right.
Because, Burrow's had a year. He played half the year. He tore his ACL. So he's still, I think it may be a 4 or 5, maybe 6-win team at the most. So, and then you got the Ravens and Browns. And, I don't really care what Baker Mayfield does. I don't trust the guy. Okay. If he can actually win a Super Bowl, even get to the Super Bowl, fine. But he still has to prove that to me. So, and look, I'm not saying that I don't fully trust Lamar Jackson either. I don't know if he can win a Super Bowl, but he's shown that he can have a great regular season and take the team to 12, 13 wins. So, I think that the winner of this division maybe is on the lower end, maybe 9, 10, maybe 11 wins, and maybe there's if there's a close, maybe almost like a tie in records around the 10, 11 win mark. But I think I'm going to give it to the Ravens.
Yeah, I think that's all. That's pretty accurate. I agree with everything. I think we're on the same page, you and me, Joseph. I think it's the Ravens division right now. The Steelers are the more so than the last two divisions you talked about. That's more up in the air. I mean, like you said, you got the Browns, Steelers, and Ravens.
Right. I just tend to think the way I was talking about it, maybe the Steelers won 7 and 8 games, and then the winner wins 9 or 10 or 11.
Yeah.
But the Steelers can easily win the division more so than like the Colts and the Dolphins, like we're talking about.
I started off saying this is the Ravens division, and I guess I think it is, but I don't know. Depending on what day you ask me, I'd say Steelers or I'd say Ravens. The Browns are obviously have a great chance. I just feel like you feel. I don't totally trust Baker Mayfield. I feel like, of course, they have Beckham and what's his name?
Jarvis Landry.
They're great receiver, or they're really good receivers, but I feel like it's also kind of, especially with Beckham, there's the chance there for just like some turmoil on the offense, so like causing problems and this and that, and name calling and this, and I just feel like it's more of a mess in Cleveland. Maybe they have a good running game with I don't know anybody's name. Chubb. Yeah, but the Steelers have a great defense still, right?
Yes.
Ravens defense I think is all right. If you're a fan, if you're just a I don't think there's a bad lie. If you're just a fan of the AFC North, like you just like to see the AFC North do well, you would want the Steelers to win the division and go to the playoffs because I think they have more potential in the playoffs than the Ravens do. I think until we see otherwise, why would I think that Lamar Jackson's going to win him a playoff game and take him to the Super Bowl or something? You know what I mean?
I would agree with that, except the Browns just trounced the Steelers in the playoffs last year. So, I don't know what happened with them.
I agree with what you're saying there, but I think the fact that the Browns trounced the Steelers. Remember, Roethlisberger threw 4 interceptions in the first half of that game.
It was like a lance. They got him quick.
Yeah,
all of a sudden.
And part of that was because the Steelers couldn't run the ball, right?
Right.
But they drafted Najee Harris, the guy from
good.
Alabama. I've watched him in the preseason, which doesn't really mean anything, but it does for a running back. He runs. I think he's going to be a tremendous addition to that team. And if they have a running game and Roethlisberger can throw it only when he needs to or when he wants to, I guess is what I'm saying. Like Nathan said, their defense, I think, is still the best in the division. Watch out for the Steelers. Now, when it comes to the Ravens, I agree I don't trust Lamar Jackson at all. He's a great runner, but if they're going to try to make him stay back in the pocket and throw the football, I just don't see it happen.
I trust him. I trust him to win a lot of games in the regular season. I mean,
they don't really have a running game. They don't have a running back.
Right. I don't. That's what I was thinking. I don't really know much. Like, I don't really know what are the Ravens big strengths. I don't know. Lamar Jackson, I guess, in the regular season.
They have a tight end, pretty good tight end.
Outside of that, you said, the running game last year they had 3 guys they were running. I guess Gus Edwards is their main guy now.
Right.
I think they traded or he was a free agent of Ingram. Which he wasn't. He really wasn't. He was good when he was on, but he's at the end of his career now. But I agree with you. I mean, if Roethlisberger last year, especially in that playoff game, I think it was all on him basically. He was going to have to win the game.
Right.
Most of the year was like that, but but the one thing that can take that away is the running game. And now they have this Najee Harris Najee Harris guy, like you said. If Roethlisberger just kind of throw when they need him to, and he can just be his average self, or he can just be not making any mistakes, and they have this great defense. Yeah, that's a great pick for the division.
Yeah. Yep. And when you say, I think we're on the same page. When I say I don't trust Lamar Jackson, it's to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
I trust him. He can go 14-2, and he won MVP 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I say I don't trust Baker Mayfield, I don't trust him to lead a team to a 13-3 record.
Right.
Part of it's like Nathan said, it's a lot of turmoil and all this nonsense. But I mean, I guess he proved he can win a playoff game last year. That's great. But they kind of snuck in, and all this, they had to win a tiebreaker or something like that. I just don't think you can take it from start to finish. The Browns just the cream of the crop in the AFC. I don't see that.
That's an excellent point. We probably should use different words there. You're right. When we say we don't trust Mayfield, it's different when we don't trust Lamar Jackson.
Right. But what we're talking about here, we'll get into this at the end of our podcast, is who we think is going to make the Super Bowl. But right now we're talking about the division. So if you trust Lamar Jackson to win 14 games, I guess and you trust Bakerfield, it could be quite a dogfight.
Right. That's why I started out saying it's the Ravens division. But then I say if you'd like to see AFC North teams do well, you're going to want the Steelers to win the division because they're going to be the ones who actually do more in the playoffs.
I actually think it's going to be the most competitive division in the AFC. And I think the Browns, I know you guys may not agree with me, but I think the Browns are for real. I mean, they got 2 solid running backs. They got 2 great receivers. They got a good tight end. They got a pretty good defense. Now Baker Mayfield, you can say all you want about whether we trust him to win a Super Bowl, and that's one thing. But I think they could easily win 11, 12 games.
Joseph, correct me I think we're on the same page, Joseph. I'm going to say something. Correct me if you feel differently. What'd you say? They're obviously for real. They won a playoff game last year. It's just I feel like at any moment, of course they could win 13 games this year, but they could also win 6. I feel like at any moment, things should just go south for the Browns. They could lose 4 straight. Mayfield would be up there being I don't know, in the press conference.
I guess they could.
And Beck could be throwing stuff on the sideline. It just goes south. It could go south at any moment in time. They're not consistently good. That's not a safe. That's a risky bet. If you're going to put money on team,
you made a good point. If you told me they were going to win 5 games, I'd totally believe you.
Right.
If you told me the Chiefs or the Packers or the Buccaneers or one of these teams are going to win 5 games, I'd be like, what? I don't think so.
Right. They're safe. You can bank on them to win their 12 or 11 games. It's safe.
Okay.
Right.
The Browns could do it. They're just not safe.
All right. So to wrap it up, who do we like to win the division?
I'll say Steelers. I mean Ravens.
Ravens. I said Ravens. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say Steelers, and we'll leave it at that, and then we'll get to our All right. Let's go to the AFC West. The AFC West is another interesting division. We've got obviously the Chiefs, who are the defending AFC champions. We've got the Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Chargers, and of course the Denver Broncos. I guess I'll start on this one. I think the Denver Broncos just named Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback. I think the Broncos are still a team in transition. I don't think they're going to make a serious run for that division at all. The Raiders, hard to say with the Raiders. We don't know, Derek Carr, he's kind of like the Baker Mayfield guy. He's not a troublemaker. I shouldn't say troublemaker. He's not the kind of guy that's going to lash out at the media like Mayfield does, but you just never know what you're going to get with him week to week. Offensively, I think they've got a pretty good team. They've got the running back Jacobs is from Alabama. They've got Waller, the tight end. They've got Ruggs, the wide receiver. So I think if Derek Carr can get them the ball, they can be a dangerous team. I think the Chargers are an interesting team with their young quarterback, Justin Herbert. He had a great rookie year. Can he do it again this year? Who knows? But I think the Chiefs are still the class of that division, and I think they're going to win the division rather easily.
Yeah, so I think the most interesting part of this division is like how 2, 3, and 4 stack up, right? Like, I think the Chiefs won the division. I don't think we're going out on a limb there. I mean, they're trying to get to their 3rd Super Bowl in a row.
Right.
I don't see anything that tells me they won't win the division. I mean, they've got Kelsey, Mahomes, all the same people back, Hill. We'll see if not having a running back, like a real running back, hurts them in any way. It's possible, right? But I still think they win their 11, 12, 13 games. The Raiders are, like you said, they added what? They added Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
With Josh Jacobs.
Right.
Gruden's been there now a few years. They're another team that's like, I find them similar to the Browns, and that if you told me they'd win 5 or 6 games, I'd believe you. If you told me they won 12, I'd believe you. Like they can go either way.
Right.
Although there's not really as much turmoil there. It's just like, still know what I'm going to get with like Carr. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. So I put them probably at 2 or 3, and Broncos and Chargers. I think I give the upper hand to Herbert of the Chargers. The Chargers are actually a team I think is sticking to a wild card spot if things go right for them, because I really liked Herbert last year from what I saw. I think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league here as his career goes on and he gets more experience. So I'd go with the Broncos last. I'll go ahead and go with the Raiders 3rd and Chargers 2nd. I think the Chargers get in the playoffs, and I have the Chiefs winning.
Okay.
I like that. I was going to say, I like that order there. I think it's locked that the Chiefs win and the Broncos are last. I think that's a lock. 2 and 3. I don't have as much confidence in the Raiders to win like 12 games like the Browns could do.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think it's more likely they like. I don't think they have as much upside as the Browns.
There's not as much of a range between.
Right. I think their range is kind of in like the 5 and 6 to like 8 range. I think the best. Yeah, I think the best they're going to do is like on the verge at the end of the year they'll be vying for one of those wild card spots just barely.
Right.
I think that's kind of like the height of what they can do. But and I like the Chargers too. I mean, there's nothing to say about the Chiefs. They're going to, come on. Right. I like the Chargers too. I like Herb. Everything you said, right on. I would typically say, wild card for the Chargers, but I just feel like it's hard. I just feel like one of the wild cards are coming out of the AFC North, whoever doesn't win that division. And I feel like the other wild card, I feel like it's tough for the Chargers to get it over like the Colts or the Dolphins or the Titans, whoever doesn't win those divisions.
Right.
So I just don't know, but I think the Chargers improved this year.
Right.
Where's the record last year? Remember?
Oh gosh, the Chargers?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they were very good. I think they were like
they weren't near the playoffs.
7 and 9. No, they weren't.
Well, I think they'll improve this year.
Yeah.
And I think they'll continue to steadily improve, and they will become, I think, a playoff team, and Herbert will become great. I just don't know if this year is the year they do that.
Okay. All right, so we finished our AFC. Let's talk about playoff teams. We all agreed Buffalo's going to win the East, right? We all agreed that
Tennessee would win the South. I believe we all
that
agreed.
Tennessee would win the South, and we all agreed the Chiefs would win the West. Okay.
You said Steelers for the North.
I said Steelers for the North. You guys picked Ravens.
Are we all in agreement that Ravens and Steelers are going to be playoff teams?
Yes, okay. I agree with that. So I'll go first on this one, so you guys can kind of listen to it and think about what you want to say. I think Bills, Steelers, Titans, and Chiefs win the division. I think your 3 wild card teams are going to be the Ravens, the Browns, and I'm going to go Dolphins. I think the NFC Championship game is going to be the Chiefs and the Steelers, and I think the Chiefs will be going back to their 3rd straight Super Bowl.
There's 3 wild cards.
I said that. I mentioned it.
Yeah, I forgot about it. I was operating on the.
No, last year was the first year. There was 3.
I forgot about that. So
so I'll go.
Your wild card teams again?
My wild card teams were the Ravens and the Browns.
Threw me off. Okay.
I threw you off. Okay. Ravens, Browns, Dolphins.
Okay, that was my fault. I should remember they had three last.
Okay.
I'm living like in the mid 2000s with.
Yeah, Nathan wants to talk about the NFC Central next.
Yeah, Nathan's thinking there's still four playoff teams.
Falcons are going to win the Central.
Yeah,
keep working on defense.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Bills winning the division. I'm going to go with Ravens winning the division, Titans, and Chiefs.
Okay.
And then my three wild cards, right now in no particular order, are going to be Chargers. I think I'll go ahead and say Steelers. I think they get in there maybe the last spot, and then I'll say Raiders.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going. Mine is just like.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. What's your AFC Championship matchup?
Okay. Excuse me. AFC Championship matchup for me will be the Chiefs and the. I want to get like a mix up of teams in here because it's never the same thing every year. Even though
I know
going in is always like just name the same team that were good again. I'm gonna say Chiefs Chargers.
Okay.
And I do think the Chiefs get to the third Super Bowl. Yeah.
Okay. So. Go ahead then.
I know what you mean about the same teams every year, but sometimes it kind of is the same teams.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. Like the Chiefs got back to the Super Bull, like everybody thought they would, and I think they do it again. Yeah.
Who was your AFC? Did you say AFC Championship?
Yeah, I said Steelers, Chiefs in the championship game.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. All right, well,
let's say the same thing. It's
okay, so ours are pretty similar then. So I say the Bills win the East, Titans win the South, Ravens win the North, Chiefs win the West. I think the wild card teams are going to be the Steelers, Colts, and Chargers.
Okay.
And I think it'll be Chiefs Steelers.
Okay, and then Chiefs. You think Chiefs will get the Super Bowl again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're all in agreement. Chiefs are going to win the AFC Conference Championship for the third year in a row. Let's go over to the NFC. NFC is going to be pretty interesting this year. Let's start with the East. The NFC East was probably the NFC least last year. I think the the Washington football team won the division. I believe they were 7-9 last year. Am I correct on that? I think they were. Yeah, they were because the Giants, if I remember correctly, the Giants were 6-10 and beat Dallas on the last day of the season. And had the Washington football team lost to the Eagles on Sunday Night Football, they would have finished 6-10 like the Giants. The Giants beat them twice. Therefore, the Giants would have won the division at 6-10. All right, so you had the Redskins, which I'm going to call them that right now, the 7-9. Giants were 6-10. Cowboys, I think, were 5-11 or 6-10, and the Eagles were right around that same thing. All right, I think it's going to be a better division this year. I think the Cowboys obviously are going to have Dak Prescott back. They've got CeeDee Lamb with 1 year under his belt from last year. They've got Amari Cooper. They're trying to rebuild that defense, and I think they've made some strides in the draft to do that and in free agency. I think their offensive line is a little more healthy this year. And we just have to wait and see what we get from Zeke Elliott. So I think the Cowboys are going to be a force in that division. I think the Eagles are not going to do much this year. I think they might be a little better than last year, but too much flux at the quarterback position. We talked about them just trading for Gardner Minshew. Now you've got Jalen Hurts, who supposedly is the starter, but they haven't named him as that yet. You got Joe Flacco there, who's played pretty well in the preseason. And now you got Gardner Minshew, who was a previous starting quarterback with the Jaguars. So what are you going to do there? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I think it's a revolving door, and I just don't see the Eagles really making any kind of push. I think the Washington football team is an interesting team. They won the division last year. I think the Eagles laid down for them, but still, they're a solid football team. They've got a really good defense. They might have the best defense in that division. And of course, now they have Fitzmagic, which I think was a really great addition to that football team. You know, last year they had
Haskins.
No, what's it? Yeah, they had Haskins, but the kid who got hurt, Smith.
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. Yeah, I couldn't remember his first name. He really played well for them last year, but then got hurt and couldn't play in the playoffs. And then they had that other kid that played in the playoffs. But
what happened to him?
He's still there. He played really well. Of course, they cut Haskins. He's with the Steelers now. But my point is, with Fitzmagic there, I think that team has a chance to win that division. And then if you look at the Giants, I think the Giants can't help but being better this year. They added Kenny Golladay at wide receiver. They've got Evan Ingram at tight end. They've got Sterling Shepard at one receiver. They got Darius Slayton at a receiver. They added Adoree Jackson from the Titans at corner. The Giants might have the best secondary in the league right now. When you look at Bradbury on one corner, Adoree Jackson on the other, you look at not Julius, but Peppers, the other guy. Jabril Peppers at one safety. And then the kid they drafted, McKinney from Alabama at the other safety. Good, solid linebackers. I think the Giants are going to be a better team. Do they have enough to win the division? I really don't think so. I'm going to go with the Redskins to win the division.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to go with the Giants.
Okay.
I think that all you just said, plus, ostensibly, they're going to have Saquon Barkley for 16 games.
True.
Which they didn't have last year. Got hurt early. So I'm going to go with the Giants. I think, Fitzmagic, I guess I was going to use an analogy that the clock's going to strike midnight on him, but it's not like he's always dominant. I just don't think you're going to get as many flashes of his brilliance this year for whatever reason.
Right.
He's pushing 40 now. That's got to end sometime. And he's not like a Brady or a Favre that's 40 and just really talented, great quarterback. He's just I don't know how to describe him. He's just a guy.
Right.
So I think that kind of sets the Washington football team back a little bit. I agree with the Eagles aren't going to do anything for a variety of reasons, like you named. The Cowboys are another one of those teams that I don't have a name for this grouping, but they're right there with the Browns and the Raiders, where they could tell me they were going to win 3 or 4 games. I believe you. You told me they're going to win 14. I believe you.
Right.
I tend to think more they're going to win in the 7 to 8 range. But you never. I don't. Prescott really hasn't convinced me that he's just so reliable that he can automatically win 10 games. He's coming off the ankle injury. Ezekiel Elliott, who knows what kind of shape he's in, or how motivated he is to run hard and all that. They're going to have, they seem to have some type of injury every year on the defense or something. And because all the shows are always talking about the Cowboys and who they got hurt and this and that. Just a lot of nonsense happening there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the Giants. I guess I've probably said before on the podcast. Yeah, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. And I don't think that Daniel Jones is necessarily still the long-term answer there. I'm not convinced yet, but
right.
I think they find a way to win at least 9 or 10 games this year. I think Saquon Barkley has a breakout year. He's already a little too overhyped, but I think he actually produces pretty well this year. And they get the playoffs.
Yeah, well, if the Giants do what you think they'll do, they win 9 or 10, win the division. Are you then sold on Daniel Jones, or still not?
No. I think it's more like we said, the division was so bad last year. I think that it can't help but get better. You're not going to have a 7-win team win the division, but if you win the NFC East at 9 or 10 wins and then lose in the first round of the playoffs, it's still okay.
And he's improving though, the Daniel Jones. What are you getting on him?
Before I turn it over to you, Nathan, along with that same lines of thinking, Daniel Jones, it parallels Eli Manning quite a bit. They almost look like the same quarterbacks. All right. Huh?
Yes, you do the same people.
No, I know. But my point is Manning's first year was 04, did nothing. 05 made the playoffs, got beat in the first round. 06 made the playoffs, got beat in the second round. 07 won the Super Bowl in that big upset. Daniel Jones, even though they haven't made the playoffs, they were close last year in his second year. Okay. I think this year, could be that, he might be the guy. Nobody thought Eli Manning, even after they won that first Super Bowl, nobody thought Eli Manning was that great of a quarterback. So it took him about 4-5 years to really come into his own. And that may be the case with Daniel Jones.
You're probably sitting here a couple years in the Eli Manning's career thinking,
he's not the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I could see you saying like you said this year. If he doesn't do well this year, get rid of him.
After 06, which was his third year, I was like, yeah come on, guys.
Yeah.
They're losing. They can't get over the hump.
He threw 5 interceptions one game against the Vikings.
The Vikings. Yeah. He threw 2 pick sixes.
Maybe it was 4 interceptions. But yeah.
So go ahead. Your assessment of the East.
I was going to say something now. I don't remember now.
About Daniel Jones?
No, about my assessment of the East.
Oh.
First of all, the East is like the AFC North, I feel like. I agree the Eagles aren't going to vie for the division, but there's 3 teams that could win the division, just like the AFC North. Except I think whoever wins it, they're going to be a worse record than the AFC North. All 3 teams are not as good as the Steelers, Ravens, and Browns. My initial thought before you went, Joseph, I was thinking I'll probably say the Cowboys win the division. But the more I thought I heard your take, and the more I think about it, I agree with you. The Cowboys, they're one of those teams like the Browns. I just don't know what I'm going to get with the Cowboys.
Right.
I guess I don't know what I'm going to get with the Giants, but it's going to have to be better than last year. I mean,
right.
So, and then Washington, again, I don't really know. I don't know. It's tough. I think all three of those teams obviously can win the division. I do feel like every year there's something with the Cowboys. They're always talking about what's wrong with the Cowboys, or can they still win the division? They're always. It seems like they're always halfway through the year fighting an uphill battle with the Cowboys.
Right.
Like almost.
Right.
But what I'm saying also is though that you can also turn on the TV shows and be like, the Cowboys are 8-1, 9-1.
That too.
That's possible. And whereas I don't see that for the Giants or Redskins.
But I feel like though, even when I shouldn't say they're always fighting an uphill battle. Yeah, that is possible. I feel like even when that happens, though,
I agree.
Kind of falls apart at the end of the year sometimes.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Dak Prescott with the injury. Yeah, I guess. You know what? I'll go in a little bit too, and I'll say the Giants as well. I'll say the Giants.
Okay.
The Barkley thing's a good point. They didn't have Barkley all last year.
They didn't have Barkley. That's right, and they still won. They made a great push at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think they won like 5 of their last 7 games.
Yeah. I feel good about the Giants. I think it's going to be all the way down to the wire though, between those 3 teams. At least 2 of them. Probably all 3 of them.
I agree.
I mean, they'll have some divisional game between those 3 teams late in the year that would be like everything riding on it. Who wins this wins the division or something. So it's going to be tough. But I have to say the Giants. Everything you said about Elliott's right. Like, is he going to be in shape this year? Is he going to be really like running like really hard and stuff? I don't know. Prescott coming off the injury. I have to believe if I was gonna bet on or whatever, I would have to say I think Prescott will bounce back and have a good year. But you just don't know with like an injury like that.
Right.
Yeah, and then the Washington, they have a good defense, I guess. I just don't. It just feels weird for me to say Washington's gonna win the division. I don't know why it feels weird. It just feels weird. With the Giants seem to be improving. I just don't think they're going to do that. Washington. I'm going to make some. Oh yeah, I really hope that unless the Giants take a step back, which I don't think they'll take a step back.
Right.
I really hope they don't try to get rid of Daniel Jones or something. Because I think they're one of these teams that they've done everything right, transitioning to a new quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think.
I don't think that. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying he's basically Eli Manning. Eli Manning's doing well for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand these teams like the Eagles. Like, what are the Eagles doing? What are they thinking? Like, okay, you got this Jalen Hurts guy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he can still be your guy, but then why are you getting all these other quarterbacks? Like, why are you like?
Right.
Like, if they really believed him, I feel like they would have just traded for Minshew, right? If they would have believed him. So I just feel like a lot of times, I feel like the Giants are an example of a team who have gone about getting a new quarterback the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they stick with it. I hope they don't get scared off too quickly and try to change again and draft one of these like running quarterbacks.
They're not, because Daniel Jones isn't going to go 1-15 this year. He's not going to be terrible. He's just, at worst case scenario, he's just going to be like, do we think he's good or not? Like he always has been. So they're going to ask themselves, well, what are we going to get that's definitely any better than him? Probably nothing. So they'll pick up his options for the next year. And they're, you know what I mean? Like he'll be there.
But I hope he's not, again, coming out of this year, I hope it's not one of those like, well, we don't know. What are you going to do with him? And then they have some like high flying college guy that they don't know if they'll get better performance out of this guy, but it's a risk, right? I hope they don't like take a risk and draft some guy high that's like he can run and do it all, and then he becomes look. Those quarterbacks that kind of lean on their legs more than their arm. You know what I mean? They can win games like Lamar Jackson's one, right? They'll be good quarterbacks for you. It's just I think more often than not, it's not going to bode well for you if you want to win a Super Bowl. More often than not.
No, I agree with that.
They can win you Super Bowls. Mike Vick never did, but he could have won a Super Bowl one of those years, Michael Vick.
Well, I think
it's more of a risk to get one of those quarterbacks if you want to go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you want to win a lot of games and have an MVP player, get one. It's probably more likely he'd win MVP and stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, let's face it. Patrick Mahomes doesn't come along all the time, right?
No.
I mean, the guy can run and the guy can throw.
Right. He does both.
But my point is, Daniel Jones, the reason most people are sour on him early is because he's not flashy. You know what I mean?
That's what flash is a good way to put it. I hope they don't decide after this year they want a flashy quarterback.
Right. And I don't think they will, like Joseph said. But I think his problem right now, Daniel Jones, is not his command of the offense. It's not his ability to throw the ball downfield. He's got 2 problems right now, which Eli Manning had early in his career. The first one is not his, is that the offensive line stunk. Okay. He has no time. Second one is his problem. He turns the ball over too much, either fumbling it or throw. All right. So you can't do that. You definitely can't fumble as quarterback. All right. And Eli Manning had that same problem. So I think he corrects a lot of that this year. And I think they move forward and he'll be the guy. But I agree with Joseph. Do we think he's going to be the guy that's going to win them a couple Super Bowls? Who knows? We don't know that yet. But I think he's definitely going to be the guy. I don't think he's that bad. But I think this year, if Barkley stays healthy, if Kenny Golladay performs at wide receiver, if he has any offensive line protection at all, he's got to get them to the playoffs or close to it.
Yeah. You mean
Daniel Jones?
He's got to be like you get.
I mean, I think then they're going to start calling for his head, the media in New York.
I hope they don't.
Yeah, I hope they don't too, but I think that's just the case. But well, let's move on to the NFC North. I think we spent enough time on the NFC East. NFC North, we've got obviously the Packers, we've got the Vikings, we've got the Chicago Bears, and we've got the Detroit Lions. I'm going to say right away the Detroit Lions are not in the conversation. They traded Matt Stafford.
They would have been had they kept Peterson, but they didn't.
That's right. Adrian Peterson, they did not keep him. They traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams for what's his name?
That's kind of like Goff. A wash, though. Almost.
Well,
it might take it a minute.
It's not really a wash. I think Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Jared Goff, okay. But Goff is a good quarterback. I just don't think they have the weapons right now. Okay, I think the Bears are going to be an interesting team. You got the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton there, who that right now they're saying is going to be the starter.
He won't be.
But Justin Fields,
most of the games.
He's been flashy, and all the fans want him, but who knows? All right. I think the Bears are their window is closing on their defense. I think they need to do something pretty quick. Otherwise that defense is going to get old quickly. And I don't think they could. Yeah, they could.
And they did last year.
I don't think they made the playoffs last year. Maybe I don't think they did. No. You got the Vikings. The Vikings are going to be an interesting team. They got Jefferson, that wide receiver, who's in his second year. They've got Dalvin Cook, arguably the second or third best running back in the league right now. And you've got Kirk Cousins, who is the ultimate game manager at quarterback. But I think the Packers are the class of the division, right? I mean, as soon as Aaron Rodgers came back, they've got what's his name? Devontae Adams at wide receiver, or not Devontae Adams. What's his name? Devontae Adams, right? Yeah, wide receiver. So yeah, I think the Packers are the team to beat if their defense can hold up this year.
The Bears did make the playoffs last year.
They did make.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For the Saints. Yeah.
Okay.
Nickelodeon game.
Oh, that was the Nickelodeon game.
All right, it was the Nickelodeon game. That's right.
That was cool.
All right, so I think the Packers are going to win the division. Rodgers is the reigning MVP. He doesn't get hurt, or somebody major doesn't get hurt. It's really all him. Like, I mean, if he gets hurt, they're done. If he plays like he usually plays, they'll probably win 11 or 12 games, right? So, right. I think that's probably going to happen. So, Packers win the division. I think the Bears. I think. Okay, not Fields, but if they can stick with Dalton, I think he's an upgrade over Trubisky. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I think he is slightly. I'm not, but so I think they finish second. They find a way to get maybe the seventh wild card again, and then I think you got like Lions fourth. I think Cousins is kind of like not bad, but it's almost like he's outperformed who he actually is the past few years. He's due to have like just a not great season at all. I don't know. Dalvin Cook, like you said, we'll talk about him in our fantasy preview, obviously, because he was one of the best backs in the league last year. They can rely on him only so much because Cousins is going to have to throw the ball, and I just don't. I think he takes a step back this year in what he's been doing, and they could finish second. I still think the Bears find a way to sneak into the playoffs again, but I'll go Bears second, Vikings third, and Lions fourth.
I think Packers win the division again, like reigning MVP Aaron Rodgers. He's got Randall Cobb now with him, so he feels that they're obviously comfortable together.
Yeah.
The Lions, yeah. I guess if I had to, I guess the Lions have to be.
You said you're going to give us your take on Stafford and.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a wash. Look, I like Stafford a lot, right?
Okay.
I do, but I feel like Goff's kind of like Stafford. I mean, don't they both have pretty strong arms? They throw it down the field pretty well. They have some big plays. They have some prolific games. Like both of them could throw for like 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. And then the next week they could turn the ball over a few times or whatever. But they both have like some really high highs.
Right.
And they don't have like real low lows. They just have kind of like, whatever lows. They're pretty good quarterbacks. And I feel like they're pretty similar. So I think that's just a wash. I don't think they've changed anything with that. So I think that's the same. And then Peterson, of course I like Peterson, but that's not gonna hurt him that much because they didn't utilize him like they should have anyways. Right. If they would have kept him and actually given him the ball 25 times a game, maybe they're better.
Right.
But so I feel like the Lions weren't horrible last year, were they?
Well, I think no, they weren't horrible, but they were not very good. And I think the problem, right, to go back to the Goff Stafford thing, Goff did take the Rams to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
okay?
that's
but
if you look at that.
Here's an interesting point. What I was going to say is, if Stafford takes the Rams to the Super Bowl, then we know it was the team, Rams. Right? It was the team around him and the coach. Because let's see if Goff can bring the Lions up to that level. I don't think they have the talent around him.
I don't think Goff's the type of guy you bring him in like Brady. He's going to bring the whole team up to that level.
Right.
I'm just saying that I think his skills and Stafford's skills are kind of aligned, And I think they both have some really high highs, and they both don't have very low lows. So I think they're pretty similar.
I see your point there. I just happen to think Stafford's like better. Like actually better.
No, I mean, like I said, I agree, and that'd be interesting to see when we get to the NFC West.
I see what you're saying, and I agree with the point in general.
But to go back to the show, I'm not like really down on the Lions. But in that division, I guess I haven't picked them to finish last. If they're in another division, maybe they could do something. But in that division, the Vikings would be the one that I would hope it would be them. It was the Lions that finished last to me. The Bears, well, I don't know. The Bears, I guess they did get to the playoffs last year, so I can't really.
Well, they're like. They could have a terrible season, they decide they don't like Andy Dalton and they start this Fields guy, and he's what we think he is or not that great. They can win 2 or 3 games too. I think things will go right for them, but things can go very wrong.
That's a good point. That's a good point. The one thing that's holding me back from saying that, from maybe putting them in the last spot in the division, is the fact they made the playoffs last year. But like you said, I wouldn't be shocked if that was just a flash in the pan. They, like you said, they just win a few games.
Well, I think what we're discussing here, it applies across the NFL, is the NFL has changed. I mean, it used to be when you drafted what you thought was your franchise quarterback, you groomed him and you got him ready, and he sat for a couple of years, and he was a traditional quarterback now that had experience, knew the offense. Nowadays, with the media and social media the way it is, and with the money that these draft picks are making, most of these teams are picking these dual threat type quarterbacks. I mean, you don't really have a lot of quarterbacks, pocket guys that are drafted. I mean, Herbert might have been one of them. But my point is, they're looking for that guy like Justin Fields, or everybody's looking for Patrick Mahomes.
Lawrence was kind of dual threat too.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're looking for everybody wants to find another Patrick Mahomes, and nobody has the patience, right? Because they bring him in and they want to start him right away, partly because they're paying him a lot of money. But again, he's a rookie quarterback, and when you face the pressure and you have any uncertainty, they're going to tuck it and run. And that's fine, but that's not always going to work.
We found RG3.
Yeah, exactly. So I think when given everything I just said, if the Bears go to Justin Fields too quickly, they don't make the playoffs.
This is how it's going to go. Joseph, you're right about that. This is how the division's going to go. This is how it's going to go with the Bears. The Bears are going to start with the Red Rocket. All right.
Right.
Andy Dalton, whatever his name is. And they're going to start with him. He'll play 1 or 2 games. Fans will be calling for his head, blah, 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 this and that. They'll switch to Fields early on in the season. And he may have a few flashes that make people think, oh, look great. But ultimately, it's going to go downhill fast after that. All right. And they're not going to win the division. They're not going to make the playoffs. People are going to be making all types of excuses for Fields at that point. Well, he's a rookie, though. But look what he did in this game. There'll be things to point to for Fields if you're an apologist and you want to say, like, he's the guy. There'll be things to point to. He'll have some flashes of brilliance. Maybe not brilliance, not brilliance, but he'll have some flashes to point to, but it's going to go downhill once they put him in. So, you know what? I'm going to go Vikings are going to be second. I like the Lions. I'm gonna say Lions third, Bears fourth,
Okay.
and the Packers obviously first.
All right. So let's go. Let's switch over to the Western Division now. We'll save the South Division for last since they have the defending champs in there. But West Division, we got the 49ers, we got the Seahawks, we've got the Cardinals, and we have the Rams. I think this is going to be an interesting division. I think with the addition of Matt Stafford, which kind of leverages our previous discussion here about the North Division. I think the Rams, with that defense and with the weapons they have on offense, I think the Rams are going to be the team to beat in that division. I think the 49ers are going to take a step backwards, even though they did last year, because again, they've got the same problem that we just got done talking about. They drafted this dual threat quarterback from North Dakota State, who basically only played 2 games last year because their season got canceled for COVID. He's only started 17 games in his career, but they traded up to draft him at number 2.
You got Garoppolo.
That's my point. And you got Garoppolo, who you could argue that you can argue that he's been a little bit underwhelming, and he probably has, and he's been hurt a couple years. But still, the guy did lead them to a Super Bowl.
There's not many. We've said this before. It's hard to get a quarterback who can lead you to the Super Bowl. Garoppolo has done it.
I agree.
You have him. What are you doing?
But that's why I think they're going to take a step back. Okay. I think the Cardinals are going to be a pretty good team. Kyler Murray has shown me that he may not be a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm kind of sold on him.
But I think he's going to do pretty well. And I think it's going to be the Cardinals and the Rams that are going to vie for that division. And you really can never count out the Seahawks because they do have a pretty good wide receiving core. It's all going to depend on who they get at running back since Carson did leave them. And of course, with Russell Wilson, he could make anything happen as well. So I'm going to say it's a 3-team division: Seahawks, Arizona, and the Rams. I think the Rams win the division, and I think Arizona finishes second with the Seahawks either tied with them or right behind them.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say the Cardinals win the division. Okay. I agree with what you're saying about Murray. Like, as much as there's little respect I have for Russell Wilson, as much as I don't like him, like Murray's kind of like that. Like he's like a faster version of Russell Wilson. Like he makes things happen. Like he could throw 30 touchdowns and run for. I compare him to Russell Wilson at whatever Russell Wilson peak was, right? And they were able to win Super Bowl. So I think it's possible. So I think they win the division this year. I think the Rams make the playoffs. You could have a 3 teams make the playoffs in this division. I think the Seahawks and the Rams could both make it. But I'll go with Rams second. Like similar to what you said, Seahawks third. And the 49ers, they took a step back last year and they take another step back this year. I think that they're getting worse, not getting better somehow. I think they win like 5 to 7 games, maybe 8. And I think that's the West.
Nathan?
I'm really interested to see the Rams, like you said. I mean, I think since they got the Super Bowl, they haven't really taken a huge step back since then. They've remained kind of on that edge. I think since they got it. They haven't like all of a sudden dropped off. And then with Stafford, I just get that saying him and Goff aren't much different. So I don't know how much that's going to boost them, but I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's a chance that Stafford could really give him a new spark. Their defense is pretty good. That defensive lineman he's still with
Aaron Donald?
Yeah.
He
got some trouble in the offseason, I think. But
that was a mistake. He didn't. Yeah.
All right.
It wasn't trouble. It was a misconception.
Oh, it was. Or misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so he'll be ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Rams win the division. I think I like the Cardinals finish a close second. I like Murray too.
Mm-hmm.
I know we just got done talking about. I would compare Murray to Lamar Jackson. Well, in the sense that I think their skills. I don't think Russell Wilson was as much of a runner as those two guys in his prime. I think he had a stronger arm and maybe not stronger, but I think Russell Wilson was a more prolific passer in his prime than Jackson and Murray are. Right. But
you'd have people that argue that he's still in his prime, but whatever.
Yeah, I think my point is I would respect his passing more than these other two guys.
Right.
But I think Murray also has that one thing that Wilson has that Lamar Jackson doesn't, is that he just finds a way to make things happen to win games.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think Murray. I'd put Murray ahead of Lamar Jackson. Even though they're similar, I trust him a little more to win games and to get things done, maybe in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So then I say Seahawks third and 49ers fourth. Yeah, I like Garoppolo, but the 49ers don't know if they're coming or going. They don't know what they're doing.
No, they don't. No.
If they would have just trusted, if they trust Garoppolo and they went forward with him, I think they'd be better off. But still, I don't know what kind of team they have around them. I'm not sure what the defense is like. I don't know much about them. I know
they got Bosa.
They got Skittles around.
Yeah, Skittles. Yeah.
But like that's great. Like I mean, you got a great tight end. Woohoo!
Right.
So I mean,
last year was
fantasy.
Last year was Murray's rookie year, right?
Say that again.
Murray.
Last year was Murray's rookie year too.
No,
Two
last
years
year
ago,
was his second year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
How smart is he looking right now? Like he's about to be his third year in the NFL, doing great.
Right.
He could be on a bus in the Texas League right now with the open So great call by Murray. I said that at the time, and I think
you did
the right call too.
No, it was definitely.
Indy's got about $60 million more in his bank account right now.
Yeah, and he will have even more after this year. He'll have even more probably.
I think he wins MVP this year, man.
Possible. Yeah.
Possible. It's possible.
If they win the division, like you say, Joseph, I think he will win.
It's
MVP.
possible. It sure is. Yeah. No, they're a good team.
Yeah. So those are I think I laid it out there. I think the Cardinals make the playoffs, though.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the final division, the NFC South. We've got the defending Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. We've got the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers. I'm going to start by saying I think the Panthers. I don't think they're going to be much of a force. They've got, what's his name? The kid that they
Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, the quarterback. He's probably a serviceable quarterback. I don't see him being the guy that's going to lead them to any promised land. They do have McCaffrey coming back. They don't have really a backup for him as Mike Smith went to Atlanta, their backup running back. I think their defense, not bad, but not great. The Falcons, I think, they lost Julio Jones. I think Matt Ryan is obviously getting a little long in the tooth. I don't think he has a lot left in him. They do have a couple good wide receivers, especially Calvin Ridley from Alabama that's been there a couple of years. I just don't see the Falcons being much of a threat either. I think the Saints, if Drew Brees was still there, maybe. But now you're going to have Jameis Winston as your starting quarterback. And basically, I think his backup quarterback is really going to be Ian Book, believe it or not, that they drafted from Notre Dame, because Taysom Hill's the reason they gave him a chance to play quarterback, but he's not a quarterback.
What's happened in the preseason? He had not shown.
He hasn't really played very well at quarterback when he's had to have the job all the time. He's the kind of guy that you can put at quarterback for a series or two. Okay. Right. But he's going to be very valuable to them, lining up in the slot, running. He's a good athlete. Okay. So again, I don't trust Jameis Winston. I don't care how strong his arm is. I don't care what system he's under. I just don't trust him. So having said that, I think the Buccaneers run away with that division.
Okay. Look, I think the Buccaneers win the division. Okay. There is a scenario in which Jameis Winston throws 30 touchdowns and Kamara stays hot and the Saints make the playoffs. Like that's
You're
possible.
right.
Like Winston's got a good enough arm and he throws enough and can make enough things happen where that's a possible outcome for the season. Yes. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen that way. I think the odds favor not that happening. Maybe he even gets benched halfway. I don't know, but it's possible. So I'm going to say, Buccaneers. They got their whole team back. They're only going to be. It all relies on Brady now. I mean,
right.
The guy can't play till he's 60 years old. So
no.
There's going to come a time where he just doesn't really have it anymore. I don't know if it's right now. It may not be. So if it's not, then there's nothing that's going to stop them from winning the division. I think it's a toss up between the Saints and Falcons to finish second, depending on what happens with Winston. Falcons, you kind of know they're going to get. Matt Ryan will be okay. He'll score 40 points a couple of weeks, and a couple of weeks they'll get blown out. It'll just be like a weird team, like always.
Right.
And then you got the Panthers, who, I don't really expect much from them. And I'm sure we'll talk about McCaffrey more in the fantasy preview episode, but he's a guy that now, like, I'm not asking are we sure he's good, because he's definitely good, but he's a guy that you can just bank to play 16 games every season. Like, he's not big.
Right.
He's smaller guy. It's always going to be one of these things where he misses 3 or 4 games a year because he's lingering injuries and this and that, So, if he can play 16 this year and answer that question, then great, but I'm not convinced he can. And Sam Darnold's not any good. So there you go.
Nathan?
Yeah. I think outside of the AFC West, this is the most locked division. I think the Buccaneers win.
I agree.
The reason I say it's not as much the AFC West is because of the Brady factor. That you just never. At some point, he's like you said, he can't play until he's 60. At some point, he's all of a sudden not going to have it. Is that who knows? And that could be any year. Like that's just like
could be any week.
Any week.
Yeah, right.
So if that's this year, then the Buccaneers go south quick. Like you said, Brady's basically that's. I mean, look where they were before him. And they were, I guess, a pretty good team, but not the Super Bowl team. So that's why I don't think it's as much of a lock. But otherwise, if this was Brady, like I was going to say in his prime, but like, he's another guy. He's not in his prime now. He just won the Super Bowl. But if this was Brady, like 10 years ago, I say this is even more of a lock than the AFC West because outside the Buccaneers, the Saints would be the team, but again, the Jameis Winston thing. I know what you mean, Joseph. He could throw like 35 touchdowns, but how many interceptions are you going to throw with those 35 touchdowns?
A lot.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't think the Saints are going to really. I don't think the Saints are as close to the Bucs as the Chargers are to the Chiefs. If that sounds a little strange to say, but I just don't think so. So the Falcons had one chance with their kind of structure of their team. That was when they were up like 20 points in the Super Bowl.
What about after week 6 or 7 when you start hearing Breeze come out of retirement talks to rejoin the Saints?
Yeah, well, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, but the Saints coach is the type of guy he'll go talk to him about it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Even if that happens, I think Breeze showed us last year that he's done the thing that we're saying can happen to Brady. He's fallen off.
Right. He couldn't even throw the ball 20 yards in that final game. So.
Yeah.
Right.
But so the Falcons had that one chance. They're a team unlike the Rams. They made the Super Bowl, but after that, it's just down. Like that was their one chance. They didn't do it. Now they're never going to sniff it again. They're not going to win the division. Matt Ryan would have some prolific passing games, but he doesn't have Julio Jones with him. I mean, somehow he can never throw a touchdown to Julio Jones.
No.
Anyways, but he had a lot of yards to him. So I don't think they're going to be anything. And then the Panthers, it's just a mess. I mean, not a mess, but they're not going to. They'll be last.
Not this year.
No. Then McCaffrey, the same thing. He's obviously a great running back. I would draft him just on that face value and fancy. But like you said, the injury thing is he going to play some games, then miss a game, or is he going to be like questionable going into every game? And have to take him out some series or take that type of thing. Because like you said, he as much as he's shown that it doesn't matter how big you are to play running back. He's I mean, being that size in the NFL, you have to take more punishment than other guys, right? I mean, look at Derrick Henry. He doesn't seem to ever anything phase. He's like 6'3", 230 pounds.
Well, he's a beast.
Yeah. And look at Barry Sanders was small, right? But McCaffrey, I don't think can make people miss like Barry. Barry Sanders, I don't know if he ever took a straight on hit, Barry Sanders. So
I see what you're saying. McCaffrey's style is a physical running style, and he doesn't have the build.
That's a good point. He has a physical running style without a physical build.
Right.
Barry Sanders knew that he couldn't get touched. He made sure it didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting though. Another thing I saw, which of course is not going to happen, but you guys remember a few weeks ago, excuse me, Brady actually came out and admitted that he played the whole season last year with a torn MCL. Okay, and he had surgery to fix it. Now, the what I heard is the Buccaneers never put him on the injured list. Okay, and there's a rule in the NFL that if you have any player that's got any injury at all, he's got to be put on the list. Whether you can put him as questionable, probable, whatever you want to put him at, but he's got to be on the list. So they were in violation of the rules by not doing that. Okay, because it's got to be a fair playing field for every team. Now, they've been saying, well, are they going to suspend Brady? They're not going to suspend Brady, obviously, but they could give
he doesn't put the injury report out.
Well, that's true. That's true. But
maybe he does actually.
but to kind of steal a line from
National Treasure.
National Treasure. Thank you. I'm really slow this morning. Somebody's got to pay the penalty, Ben. So I don't know. It may not affect their season at all, or it may not even happen at all. I'm just saying that's out there. I think it's real. I never would have thought that Brady would have played this long, to be honest with you. I mean, the guy just turned 44, all right, early this month. And he's probably going to have a pretty good season this year. And more than likely, he's probably going to play next year. He'll be 45 years old. And I never thought a quarterback at 44 would be the defending Super Bowl champion winner, It's just amazing.
Especially at this point in the league when there's so much emphasis put on mobility at quarterback. And,
yes.
But then again, though, you also can't touch quarterbacks anymore.
Well, that's true too. But still, just the fact that he can throw the ball as well as he can.
Yeah.
I think if I was 10 or 15 years younger than I am now, I might run out and buy his book because he's obviously doing something right, whether it's nutrition or his workout or something.
Good point.
He's doing something right.
Just maybe you can still do it.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'm going to test it out at 64 and see if I can't.
That'd be a great podcast journey. We all three get his book and we document our journey to be like Tom Brady.
Well, actually, it'd be more interesting if I did it because I'm the older guy, right? And he's
right.
But he's been doing it for a while. Anyway, that's just a little side
I don't think
note.
he's ever eaten a strawberry. You probably
He's never eaten. I'm going to have to stop eating strawberries. Yeah. All right. So we all agree on the Buccaneers in that division.
So the injury doesn't concern you from his health standpoint.
No.
Just from
No, he's fine. I think he's fine. Yeah, he's going to be all right. But all right. So let's go down our playoff teams. I'll start first. I said I thought the Redskins or Washington football team was going to win the East. I think the Buccaneers obviously are going to win the South Division. I think the Packers are going to win the North Division. And I said the Rams were going to win the West Division. I think your wild card teams are going to be the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Giants. And I think the NFC Championship game, could be a rematch of the Packers and the Buccaneers. But I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here, and I'm going to say it's going to be the Rams and the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship. And I think the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So I'll have Giants winning the East, like I said, Packers in the North, Buccaneers in the South, Cardinals in the West. And then my three wild cards will be Bears. I said we get in there. I think 7th seed again. And then I think the Rams and Seahawks will be 5th and 6th somehow. So I guess that's the same playoffs last year, except for the Giants. But
right.
So that'll probably be wrong then. So because there's always a handful of new teams every year. But we'll go with that for now. NFC Championship game. That's a good question. I guess my initial thought is Packers Bucks, but that happened last year. So I don't think that's probably not likely to happen again this year. I'm going to say, I'm going to say Cardinals Packers.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say the Packers get the Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
Okay. Rematch of Super Bowl one.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what I said. I think I said the Giants win the East, right? I said the Bucks win the South.
Packers win the North.
And the Rams win the West. I think the Cardinals get the playoffs. The next playoff seed, whatever.
Right.
5.
Right.
Then I think I'm gonna say Vikings.
Okay.
At 6, and then I'll say the Cowboys are I'll say Cowboys are sneaking the playoffs.
Okay.
And then I don't think Brady's going to just fall off this year. I think he's going to have a good year.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't think they're going to get back to the NFC Championship game.
Okay.
That was my thought. Yeah.
I just feel like they'll lose right before they'll lose the divisional game.
Okay.
To I don't know where they'll play somebody. So I'm going to say it's going to be Packers are going to get there probably. Something about Aaron Rodgers, he just unfortunately, he just always finds a way to win, and it's annoying. So I'm going to say the Packers, and I'm going to say the actually, let me take a step back. I'm going to think about this because
Well, while you're thinking about it, let me say that I think the interesting thing about the Buccaneers this year, or what we're going to find out, is last year, remember, Tom Brady joined this team, pretty good football team, and he got everybody to buy into his philosophy, right? He got everybody on the same page, and all these guys were committed and hungry to win a Super Bowl. This year, we're going to see, we know Brady's going to be hungry because he always is. We know Gronk is we don't even know if Gronk is, but we think he's going to be closer to Brady than the rest of them. But what's really going to be interesting is all these other players, now that they've got their ring, how committed are they going to be?
That's a good point.
Because really, you guys know this. Nathan, you know it. Joseph, you know it. You've played on teams that have in high school that have won back-to-back championships. I don't care who you are and how much talent you have. Once you get to the mountaintop, it's harder to get there next year because you have to put forth even more effort because now you're the hunted. And that's really going to be the key to this season for the Buccaneers is how committed are all these other players going to be?
That's the point.
Good point.
It's not going to have anything to do with Brady.
Nothing with Brady, no.
I could just.
I think Brady's looking up. He understands that too.
Brady understands that. Yeah.
Gronkowski does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's going to. Well, but again, I don't think he's as pivotal of a piece where if he for some reason thinks that way, he's going to make the big difference. But I think he understands it, like you said. He acts a little like what's the word? Flippant sometimes.
Yeah,
but he knows what it takes, and I think he understands that. He's a winner. But I agree with you. I think that's the best case. I guess I couldn't pinpoint why I felt they weren't going to get back, but that's the best case. The whole team is going to be a little more content now.
Right.
And the whole Brady being there, that's the newness of that
wears off. Right.
So I'm going to say it's going to be the Rams. I'm going to say Giants. I'm going to say this is the year. I think Daniel Jones is a breakout year for Daniel Jones. Breakout year.
Are you going to take it to the next step?
Super Bowl?
Rams. I'm going to go Chiefs, Rams.
All right. So Nathan's going Chiefs, Rams. I went Chiefs, Rams, and Joseph went Chiefs, Packers. So do we want to hold off our Super Bowl picks for another episode, or we're going to make them now?
Give them now, I guess.
Give them now. It's our preview episode.
Who wins Chiefs, Packers?
Good question. I'm going to say I don't really want to say Chiefs, but I'm going to say Chiefs.
Okay. I'm going to say
that
Chiefs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to say Chiefs as well.
Everything points to the Chiefs for me, but I believe the Chiefs are going to become the new Buffalo Bills. They're going to lose this. They're going to lose. They're going to have gotten to 3 in a row now, lost the last 2. They'll probably get there again next year, lose it. I think they're going to become a team where you thought they were going to win 5-6 Super Bowls, but all of a sudden now they're getting there every year, but they're not winning it. So I like it. Yeah. And I'm going to say the Rams. This is going to be like the redemption kind of story. What's that coach's name for the Rams? Whatever. What I'm talking about. McVay. Or that's the guy from Back to the Future. McVay.
So you say the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl, even though you said that Stafford and Goff are a wash at quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think they could have won. I think they could have won with Stafford.
You're
with
right.
Goff
You're
last
right.
year.
They could have.
I mean, not last. I mean, they got there with Goff. They just lost.
Yeah, they did.
So I don't think they could have not won it with Goff.
I'm just kidding you.
And plus, like I said, who knows? Maybe Stafford does provide some boost, but I think this is gonna be though. I can just see them pouring the Garrett on McVay, and it's like this is his. They got there, and no one knew if they were going to get back and do it again, but they did it, and this is their little thing. Then you'll never hear from the Rams again.
Okay, so there you have it, our NFL preview show for 2021, episode number 88. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter at PressBoxPod. Go to the PressBox Podcast YouTube channel. Watch some of the great cuts that Nathan has put up there. We've enjoyed having you. Make sure you come back real soon because our next episode, we're going to talk fantasy football preview for 2021. So for Joseph, for Nathan, I'm Ralph, and we'll see you next time.